The call of the Hawks can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
And welcome into the Pod at the Palace live, presented by SARACEN, Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis finally got you in here for one of these. Getting your week off to a good start. It's Miikka Monday in Fayetteville. John Calipari got one across the finish line. Andrew, see what I did there? Miikka Muurinen has announced his commitment to the Razorbacks, 7 feet tall, 223 pounds, with a 7'3" wingspan and guard skills. 24/7 Sports ranks him as a 5-star prospect. Andrew, we've been wondering when Cal was going to strike again. It feels like it's been a couple years. Really, it's just been less than a couple weeks. I've been wondering what the heck are they going to do at the 4 with Trevin Brazile moving on and the transfer portal by the day thinning out. And now that thing is closed. So what they're doing is they're getting a legitimate NBA talent at this stage of the game. That is a win for Arkansas. And if John Calipari can take the flashes that we've seen from Miikka Muurinen, turn into consistent production, the potential is there for this to be a home run type of addition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, you and I have both publicly had our reservations about, hey, is this necessarily the best possible move you could make? You know, is Miikka this foolproof prospect that's going to solve all of your problems in the front court necessarily? You know, no, but I do think, like you said, the upside is certainly there. I also think, I mean, listen, you beat out UNC for a guy. I mean, I know UNC is going through a little bit of a transition, but it's not like this is some guy that nobody was after, nobody wanted. This is one of the most talented players in the country. You mentioned Trevin. There's a lot of parallels between him and Trevin in good and bad ways, honestly. You know, the kind of versatility that a guy like that brings, the athleticism, the lob threat, the potential defensive impact, which I think with Miikka is beginning to be almost underrated a little bit. Like, I think this is a guy that has a potential to be a really impactful defender at the college level. I think what the also parallel that he has between Trevin is, you know, kind of a little bit up and down, and we don't know exactly what to expect. He doesn't have a super long track record worth of production for us to point to and say, okay, that's what he'll do. And so I think our imaginations get to run wild a little bit in terms of what this is going to look like. But, man, I don't hate the premise of taking a risk on a big-time talent like this who's very early in his development still. And I think there's a lot for him to grow both on and off the court. And he's been playing with grown men for the last couple of years. I think it's going to be nice to see him play with some guys around his age. And, of course, this is a part of a larger youth movement for Arkansas, which is John Calipari's thing. He likes to change lives. He likes to help families. I'm all for helping this one.
He's getting back to his wheelhouse, man, no doubt about it. It depends on how you look at it from a ranking standpoint. I think because he wound up playing pro this last year, even though he spent so much time in the States in high school, that it's not going to count against their high school class. And that irritates me because if it did, it'd be the #1 class in the country now. So they kind of have a pool of freshmen, transfers, and then international players, and it'll be like the overall team score. So we'll see what that looks like after they add a couple fives here. But I was hoping that they would keep him as a freshman incoming because then they'd have that #1 by their name. But they get Obina Akizi, then they're probably still going to have that anyway. But yeah, you kind of mentioned it, man. It's been a roller coaster couple of years for Miikka. He was the Peach Jam MVP with Brad Beal Elite a couple years ago with J.J. Andrews. Then he had kind of an underwhelming junior season at Campus Prep. But then he makes the finish, you know, the national team in Finland. And it's not – we see these guys all the time that are playing on like the U18s or U17s. No, this is like the legit national squad. He was teammates with Lauri Markkanen. He was the youngest guy at Eurobasket, and he was playing against NBA players. Everybody's seen the viral clip of him hitting the 3 on Nikola Jokic. And so he had a lot of pop moments there. He signs with a top-tier pro club in Serbia, and it was a disaster. And it wasn't just for him. Like there was coaching changes mid-season. These big public riots and protests over it. They take it seriously over there, in case you didn't know, and just all kinds of drama in the organization. It goes quiet, and you don't hear anything for a couple months. And then he shows up a couple weeks ago at the Hoop Summit in Portland, and Miikka looked as good as he has in 2 years. He nearly had a double-double in that game. I think he had 10 and 8, was showing a high motor. He was aggressive out there. And if you get that version of him consistently, then you're really onto something there if you're Arkansas. And so, yes, there's some risk involved. That's the case with a lot of guys out there. And we've heard about, ego, maturity stuff, whatever. He's a hog now. But what I think this is a fascinating high upside project that was made in a lab to be another John Calipari success story. That's what you hope for, because there's truth to some of the chatter out there about, certain programs maybe backing out or is it too much of a headache? if you're scared, go to church, right? John Calipari's been recruiting him for a couple years now. He knows him. He knows his people. He knows his story. And if he's bringing him in, then I'm on board. Let him cook. Miikka, the thing about him is he might have the most upside of anyone on this roster. And that's saying something because Arkansas's got some guys who are going to be some bona fide pros there. But when you have a 7-footer who can do the things that he can do, if you harness that, becomes a hell of a basketball player.
Yeah, I think it's completely fair for anybody to look at it and say, all right, this guy, are we sure he's going to be super motivated? Are we sure he's going to be, the best teammate, most locked in guy we've seen? And is he really going to get the most out of his talent? Like, that is a completely fair concern. One thing I will say is because I think one of the things you hear about him is, he's got a little bit of an attitude problem. You can see it on the court in a good way. There's a very serious competitive drive that this kid plays with and an intensity. And by the way, again, playing against grown men, that didn't go away. Now he played a lot less, in those situations, but
sure.
He was very intense and he had a lot of moments. He blocks a shot, he'll get right in your face and he'll let you know about it. And these are 34-year-old men. And so I do think there's going to be a lot of intriguing possibilities with him now being a college player. If you're evaluating him on that curve playing against grown men, now that he's going to be playing against some, other 19-year-olds and some college players who are much less talented than him, I think you're going to really see him flourish. And I also think with John Calipari being able to manage those egos, this is not the first time he's brought in some kid who, has bounced around a couple times and, maybe has different aspirations or whatever. John Calipari is meant to do that. And there's other freshmen that are really talented around him. So it's you either get in line and you get with what we're doing, or you just get left by the wayside. I think for Miikka, there has to be a lot of motivation coming to Arkansas, and that's why it always works with Cal and these guys, is because Cal has something that they want, and they have something that Cal wants, and they work perfectly together. For Miikka, this has to be a golden opportunity for you, one, because everything that we're talking about, you think he doesn't know about? You think it hasn't gotten to his radar that people are concerned, and, you didn't play a ton in the pro level, and, you bounced around a few times, and, what's going on here? I'm sure he's very aware of that. So this is a big opportunity for him to prove, hey, I'm a serious guy. Not only am I a serious adult that can play basketball, I'm a legitimate prospect who can make millions of dollars playing this game. And that's what Cal does better than anybody is prepare these guys for that. And so I think he needs to have a firm understanding of what that looks like. And I think coming in and being around some guys like Jordan Smith Jr. who have their head screwed on right, being around J.J. Andrews, being around Abdou Toure, being around someone like Billy Richmond, and then, by the way, he got to learn a lot from Lauri Markkanen, who's still playing in the NBA. Absolute
Who speaks
stud.
Very highly of him, by the way. He does.
Yeah. And they've been compared a little bit. They're actually more different players than I maybe realized initially. But I think, that's all part of his journey. I mean, it's still a very young kid who's early in his development. I think there's a lot for him to still figure out. And I think Arkansas is a great place for him to do it. And I think he probably looked at this front court situation and thought, a lot of minutes. I'll take it.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Because we were getting to the point where it was all right, we're zeroing in on here's what it looks like they're trying to do at the 5. But if you start adding the numbers, they're just going to try to piecemeal this thing together at the 4. What the heck? Are they just going to play some wings down there where they go double big sometimes? I've been very, very open about they got to do something here at the 4. You can't just let Trevin walk and then not make an attempt to replace him with somebody who plays the position at least. Yeah, you can play small ball if you need to. You can go jumbo if you need to. But just having somebody with the type of versatility that's required there, because that's a unique spot on the floor. I mean, you got to be able to do some things in the paint. You got to be able to defend on the perimeter. You need to have some perimeter skills. You also need to be able to do some stuff around the rim. It's one of the more versatile positions that you can have out there. And so I'm very happy that they've done this. And it's I don't think it's fair for anyone. If you go look at the portal, even the guys that are already committed at the spot, I know Trevin Brazile had his ups and downs for sure, but I don't think it's fair to look at anyone who they would bring in here and say, all right, this is a 1-for-1 swap from a production standpoint. It was what he averaged, 13, 7, and a block and a half and a steal or something like that. That's a lot right there, and it's a lot of experience. But I do think if you're looking to replace an archetype, if you're looking to keep a similar type of player, Miikka does check a lot of those boxes. He's taller than Trevin is by a couple inches, actually. The length is there. And, here's what made me happy is a year ago, you were seeing him weigh in at 200, 205. It's all right, he's really going to have to put some weight on. And they put him on the scale at Hoop Summit a couple weeks ago, and he was up to 223. I know that's not crazy. I know that's not a lot. but it's shown that he's put on about 20 pounds over the course of a year, or maybe a little bit over a year. That's a good sign. So you get him over here for the summer, get him in the weight room. Maybe this is a dude who's pushing over 230. And you mentioned the attitude that he plays with. If you play with a mean streak and you play with the toughness, the actual physical attributes can catch up. So he's got the right mindset for it. Yes, he's got to harness it. But that is kind of a John Calipari thing that he's done in the past. Everybody likes to mention Boogie Cousins, who was, a little bit rough around the edges coming in, and the way that John Calipari was able to work, wonders with him from that standpoint. He's fried bigger fish than Miikka Muurinen. So I'm confident in his ability to do that. And I think if you put the right pieces around him, like you said, this could be something that's really fun. I'm intrigued by the 4 now, because it's kind of, I said boom or bust on the show the other day, and I think there's some truth to that, but it might just be a little bit of an unknown. But it's crazy if you think about Miikka and, Paolo and those guys. It's like, all right, you got 2 7-footers who are long as a Monday in the office. They're athletic as can be. They've got these perimeter skills. They're who's going to put it together first. You could have just like a ridiculous combination there of talent and size and athleticism. Both of them have a lot of coveted traits for the NBA. If it pops for one or both of them, then they're really cooking there at the 4. I can't wait to see these guys once we get able to go into practice and everything like that. It's kind of an interesting deal that they have there. And it's new for us because we've just been living the Trevin Brazil life at the 4 for what feels like the better part of a decade now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, certainly wouldn't oppose if Arkansas wants to bring in, another 18, 19-year-old guy to play the 5. I certainly won't be opposed, a specific one I have in mind. But no, I do think Miikka, the thing is, if you read his resume and you kind of just think about him, from a big picture standpoint, you read the reports, you would probably think that this was like a, soft, frail, skinny, not super coordinated kid who kind of needs to grow into his body a little bit. When I see Miikka, that's not really what I see. Like, he looks super coordinated. One, he's a kind of a freak athlete, honestly. But he seems like the physical toughness is there. Now, he's not the biggest, most overwhelming guy. He's certainly not a bruiser, but I don't think he's going to be just getting elbowed in the gut by mid-major 4s that are just pushing him around or anything. In fact, when I look at his game and things that I feel like he needs to grow in, the jump shot looks very good. Like, you can see the form there. You can see the mechanics. I don't think he shot it super consistently from what I've seen. I think there's a lot of room for growth there, kind of offensively rounding out that skill set. And Curtis, I know this is going to sound like a joke. I promise I'm not making a joke. I do think the Kenny Payne school of big men will need to help Miikka Muurinen. Now, I'm not saying that Kenny Payne is going to
away, right?
I'm not saying Kenny Payne is going to be this whisperer that turns him into Hakeem Olajuwon. But you watch these guys at practice; they always separate the bigs, and they kind of have them just going through the traditional big man stuff. And I always appreciated just watching Trevin during warmups look like an actual big man, and he's doing all those motions and kind of getting used to it. And that's something that I think when you think about Miikka translating his game from the Eurobasket, EuroLeague, and all this over to college, I think those baskets are going to be easier for him to get, those just easy little jump hooks right over someone. And you compare him to Trevin a little bit, and again, they're different players. It really isn't a one-to-one thing. We've made that clear. But the one thing with Trevin is teams would get away with putting smaller guys on him and saying, hey, this guy can't score from the post. We would prefer him to score from the post rather than shoot spot-up threes. I think there's a path to Miikka not being that guy you can do that against. Like, I don't think you can put some 6'5" guy on him. Like, I think he would be able to have enough touch around the rim, could maybe just put a couple moves together. I think he would be able to attack mismatches like that. There's just not many guys in college basketball, and I'm not saying this is like a special one-of-one talent, but there just really aren't that many power forwards in college basketball, especially when you're early in the season, when he's getting his feet wet against mid-majors. Like, some of these teams like UNC Greensboro or whoever, they're not going to have anyone that can match up with him at the 4.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I want to be fascinated to see it. I think it's more likely that Arkansas would go like super big and play. And I mean this when I say it, I think it's more likely they would play him at the 3 than it is that they would play him at the 5. And I think we probably need to wait and see what the roster looks like before I really stand on business with that take. But because he's kind of like a 7-foot guard. Now, I like the aggression that he showed on the glass at Hoop Summit to be able to get in there. And obviously with that length and skill set, a jump hook, man. That's like that's basketball 101 for a guy like that. So I'm with you from the let's get Kenny Payne in there working with him. What is it that he says? Play like a big, move like a guard, or act like a big, move like a guard. He's got one of those phrases, and this would be I think something that's applicable there. But it would not surprise me knowing John Calipari at all if you get into say a game with Florida, who's bringing all their guys back, and I would hope that Arkansas has a monster type of dude in there at the 5, but you have that guy, and maybe you go double bigs. Let's say you get a KZ and Hanlogden, who we've been talking about. You play them at the 4 and the 5. And you put Miikka at the 3, and you can actually, in a way, match up with the size and the length and everything that Florida has going on. That'd be a good problem to have. If it works out the way that they hope it does, in your front court, you could go from kind of not even having one a couple weeks ago to you could roll out 6'11", 7 foot, 7 foot, 7'1", 7'2". And that might just be something that looks cool at the airport or in warm-ups. I don't know. But that's a ridiculous amount of height. They'd have to be one of the tallest teams in the country if they were able to do that.
Yeah, that would be intriguing. I do like the possibilities, and of course, we got to wait and see what this roster looks like altogether. I can't wait to start playing the games of different lineups they can have together and stuff like that. I do also think offensively, like you look at this roster and kind of what it's missing a little bit of. Obviously, Jeremiah Wilkinson answers a lot of the shooting question. The shooting upside with Miikka is something that I think is maybe the most important piece of his game, because I feel like if he's not a consistent three-point shooter, it's going to be hard for me to buy into him as a legitimate NBA prospect at this stage of his career. But if he is knocking down that 3 ball, and now you have another, because Trevin, was a guy, a huge X factor in that regard, could stretch the floor for Arkansas. You kind of start looking around and you're like, man, Miikka might actually kind of be like the perfect missing piece for a lot of key ingredients of this roster. And I do think what's important is that it's not like you're looking at Miikka, because everyone's going to look at his numbers and be like, oh wow, he really didn't score a ton. It was, average 5 a game or whatever. It's not like Arkansas is bringing him into a position where he is going to have a ton of production. I think a guy like this is at his best when he's able to just kind of roam a little bit. You look at most of his highlights, almost all of them come off ball, backdoor cuts, lob plays, getting offensive rebounds, just kind of getting out in transition. I think there's this sets up well for Miikka to kind of come in and grow at his own pace. It's not like Arkansas is putting him into a position where he's going to have to be something that he's not, and he's going to have to account for all these different things. And ideally, he's going to have some size behind him, which I think is going to be really important.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope that I really do hope they get a KZ, and we might find something out about that here pretty soon. It's whenever you get to the point where these guys are speed dating their visits, like he took 2 in 2 days over the weekend. It seems like that's starting to wrap up, and I think he is going to reclass. I think he's going to wind up being a Razorback, but you got to get that across the finish line also. But there would be something – we've talked about this for maybe going into next year, and you couldn't go all the way in on it because obviously you hope to have Malik Thomas and Billy Richmond back, and you got Wilkinson, who you mentioned, and I agree with you 100% on the 3-point upside from Miikka here. But it would be almost like a throwback to see Cal, run out a – Jordan Smith Jr., Abdou Toure, J.J. Andrews, Miikka Muurinen, Obinna Akizi, all freshman 5 lineup. Because it's interesting, man. He talks so much about the portal and not being crazy about how this stuff is headed, and we know that he doesn't like to take a bunch of transfers, and he's certainly willing to pay up more for freshmen than he is the guys out of the portal, and for all those reasons. So my thought on it's been, well, don't ride the fence. Like you've either got to, even if you don't like it, you got to embrace it so you can win and go out there and get, a bunch of transfers and just kind of do what everybody else is doing, or you got to dig your heels in and just go all in on the youth movement. I like the way you put that a while ago, and they could have the opportunity to sort of do that this year. And I think it would be, awesome to see, man. It would almost be like, it wouldn't be Arkansas wouldn't be the villains of college basketball. That's not the word I'm looking for, but just doing it differently than what so many of these other programs out there are. And it would be cool to see him just kind of go to war, rage against the machine a little bit, if you will.
I like that. And listen, I want to make it clear, I'm not predicting Arkansas to win the freaking national championship or anything like that. But what always happens in sports, when one team has success doing something a certain way, we see everyone in whatever league that is, whether it's high school, NBA, NFL, college, teams start copying that. What would it look like if Arkansas went to a Final Four with a roster like this? Would everyone then start saying, oh, wow, maybe we do just need to bring in 6 freshmen. Like, maybe that's what we need to do. And then all these teams would be dogging their coach and be like, oh, he can't recruit the high school ranks. That's what we need. We need the high school ranks. But I do think from a team chemistry standpoint, specifically for Miikka, because he hasn't played with an 18-year-old in 3 years. You know, he hasn't played with someone his age in a while. I do think that's going to be helpful for him to be around some other guys that are like-minded, similar age, maybe similar personalities, can kind of band together. And what does every great team have to do? If they're going to be a great team, you need guys in that locker room to find common ground, believe in each other, love each other, and go out there and take that to the floor. I think having a lot of these guys and that being the core of your team, a lot of young guys with some older vets to fill in. I mean, Jeremiah Wilkinson, everything we know about him is not a super high ego guy. You know, it doesn't seem like he's going to be like, you know, needing to be the star or anything like that. I think he's going to fit right in with those guys. Obviously, we know Billy Richmond, how like low maintenance he can be in a locker room. Like, I think he's going to fit in perfectly. I don't think the older guys on this team are going to be offended by these freshmen taking center stage and by these freshmen being a huge part of the storyline. And that's what you need in sports to be great, is your guys to believe in each other and believe in what you're doing. I do think that, and by the way, they're going to be very aware of the narrative of like, oh, you're too young, you're not going to be able to compete against the big boys. You think Cal's not going to say that to them? Hey, everyone thinks you guys are soft. Everyone thinks you guys are too young to get it done. What are you going to do? Go show them what you're about.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm with you for sure. Hey, shout out to OZK Insurance. We appreciate them for their support throughout the course of the season and the off season and portal season and international water season, because we're in all those things right now. It's a John Calipari roster build, man. What do you expect? But OZK Insurance, they've got kind of a similar versatility. It's an independent insurance agency who's not tied down to just one company. They're going to shop all the carriers to find the best coverage and price for you. And they've paired that now with the full service mobile app where you can pay all your bills, request roadside assistance, file claims, request policy changes, or even get new quotes, all from the convenience of your phone. If you're tired of being stuck with one carrier or chasing down paperwork, go to ozkinsurance.com or search OZK Insurance in the App Store or Google Play. It's a local agency with national level options, one powerful app. That's OZK Insurance. So I've been pulling. Yeah,
breaking news.
No, what's up?
Can I read you some quotes from Miikka Muurinen?
Yeah. Please do.
This looks like from Jeff Borzello.
Please do. Yeah.
Wrote a story and said, quote, since my visit a year and a half ago, they've been consistent and committed to recruiting me. They've always been there, always shown interest, always been very consistent. They've gotten to know me as a person, and that's been very important to me. When I left my Arkansas visit, I was not only excited about the program, but also about the people. And I said to myself, those are the type of people I want to be around on a daily basis.
There we go.
So the thing that stood out with him about Calipari is he kept it real with them.
Good. Well, you know what? I actually love that a lot right there, because that's what he needs. That's what you're going to have to do is keep it real with him. And I've heard a lot of people. I've heard this a lot during the Tyron Stokes recruitment. And I know nobody likes this guy, but Jeff Goodman's been big on it. It feels like he needs a certain type of coach if he's really going to thrive. And Goodman likes to say he needs an MFer type of coach. And so you think about a guy like Mark Pope, for example, and it's like, and it's not a knock on him. I know it's easy to do, but that's not a marriage that feels like it's going to go well. You know what I mean? It would have been the same thing had Miikka chosen Kentucky. But there's a handful of coaches, and I think a lot of them are the old school type of guys. Cal is one of those who I think he's been around some of the biggest personalities. We know his roster when it comes to all the guys that have been drafted and gone to the league and everything like that. And he's done a really good job of being able to harness that with guys, get them to play as a team, get them to realize their potential and all that. And I think that this is the type of coach, the type of environment that Miikka needs and that he can thrive in. If he recognizes that and he's saying that, that's the first step in the battle right there. And I do agree with you. I don't think any of the like the narratives and stuff that are out there are lost on him. And this is a guy. It's crazy because when he burst onto the scene at Peach Jam a couple years ago, he went from the guys who were in the weeds, the scouts knew who he was, but for the most part, in terms of the public eye, he went from unknown to like, oh, this dude's going to be a lottery pick like ASAP. He's a 5-star. Is he the number one guy in the class? What's this going to look like? And it's just kind of been this up and down wave that he's been riding since then. And so I think coming to a college campus and staying motivated and locked in, and it's consistent and there's structure and you're around the same guys every day. And it's a little bit different than the professional ranks where, yeah, you're at practice and you got to work out, but you have to be an adult. You're surrounded by people who are there to support you. And I think that's going to be at a higher level at a place like Arkansas. So he's going to have everything around him to thrive. It's going to be up to him to choose whether or not he wants to do it. But as has always been the case with Miikka, like the talent and the ability, there's zero question whatsoever that he possesses all the traits to be a hell of a college basketball player and obviously a future pro. I mean, if you go look at guys who are in the league, the ones who thrive at his position fit a similar profile, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it wouldn't be the first, like, it's not like this is a foreign concept of like, hey, a basketball player who's super talented, who kind of needs to grow up a little bit, maybe needs to be in the right situation, maybe needs to be in structure, maybe needs to be, I mean, dude, I remember when Justin Smith, and I know I'm not comparing this guy to Justin Smith, but you remember when Justin Smith committed to Arkansas and all the Indiana fans were like, oh, this guy's got character concerns.
I do remember
this guy's
that.
got attitude problems. And like, obviously we kind of disagree with it in the moment, but then like he gets to Arkansas and then he's just like, hey, I found my home. I found a place that loves me and embraced me. That's all I needed to get the most out of myself on and off the court. Like you see things like that happen. Hell, I remember Luka Doncic getting ejected from EuroLeague games and people being like, hey, this kid's a hothead. He's 17 years old and he's immature. Like, I just don't think he's ready. And, you see some of that in Luka's game, but it's like there are some of the best basketball players in the world, when they were 17, 18 years old, kind of needed, a certain coach to get that out of them, to breathe life into them. You need the structure, I think, is very important. And I do think, like, when you're in a situation, when you're playing against older guys, with older guys, it's probably a very lonely feeling, probably a time when you do feel sorry for yourself a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily the most stunning development in the world that it didn't result in him playing the best basketball of his life necessarily.
Sure.
I think he's probably going to be as fired up to be at Arkansas as Arkansas is to have him. And if not, I mean, it is pretty simple. It's like, we're all here trying to win a championship and get to the NBA. If that's not your goal, you're going to get left out really quickly. Like, you will stick out like a sore thumb if you don't kind of fall in line a little bit. And I think that'll help him and all the other incoming freshmen as well. The same applies to JJ Andrews, who he's going to have it's a very different situation. He's going to have to kind of learn how to do things at the college level, learn how to play with some other talented teammates. It's one of the best things that you sell at the University of Arkansas with Cal as your coach. It's like, you get to play with great talent. You get to learn how to be a winner. You get to learn how to be a pro. Come do it here.
Yes, I like that. Let's get into the chats and see what everybody's got going on. I've been pulling up some of them throughout, just the Woo Pigs and the Slim Jesus. Are we to embrace the Slim Jesus nickname? Do we give him another one?
I don't know why we wouldn't embrace it, honestly. I mean, one, because it's an absolute banger of a nickname.
I saw somebody in the chat was like, I got to be honest, I don't appreciate the blasphemy. I didn't know if it was a joke or not, but that's kind of been his thing for a while now,
Yeah. What's funny is, like, obviously this is stupid because Jesus, you think Jesus Christ. I thought about Jesus Shuttlesworth. You remember Jesus Shuttlesworth from Got Game? Is that his name?
Yeah.
That's what when I saw Slim Jesus, like, for some reason that was the Jesus that my brain went to. I don't think it's meant to be a sacrilegious thing here.
That's funny.
Let's just be cool.
Yeah. We'll get to some super chats first. Appreciate everybody for hanging out with us. Washburn Idol says, who knows what he will end up doing, but I love getting a guy as polarizing as Miikka. Great TB type replacement. Yeah, I mean, they went and got the skill set, they got the demeanor, they got all those things there. I've seen a lot of people ask that question, like, is it similar with Miikka, with the on-floor stuff as it is with Trevin? I don't know. Like, time will tell. I've seen him, dunk on guys and taunt them, and I've seen him, clap back at coaches and stuff like that a little bit. That's all. That's kind of just part of it with young guys. And that is because I know there's been some people like, oh man, you were out on him or whatever, and you didn't have anything good to say about him. No, I've always been very complimentary of Mika's talent and his ability as a basketball player. But I'm going to be honest with the stuff that is out there, and because it's part of his story and it's part of what people need to be aware of. And so that's a part of it. I'm not really that worried about that. My thought process is on it. If you're going to have that type of stuff that comes along with you, and yet sometimes you just got to grow up. He's a kid. That's part of what's going to happen here. Sometimes you got to have the right coach and the right environment to be able to overcome that. That's the next part of the step. So I'm not worried about that. For me, it is, if you're going to have that, you got to have the production to make it worthwhile. And for in ways that hasn't necessarily been the case. He was great in Peach Jam, and it was like, okay, so that's there. If he was putting up those kind of numbers every night, I don't have a problem with it at all. But then he averages like 6 and 4 for an entire season at Compass Prep, and it's like, that's a little bit weird. And since then, it's kind of hard to say. Like, he had his pop moments in Eurobasket, and if you're averaging 6 points a game on that level playing against those guys, that's big time. Like, that shows a lot of promise. The deal this past season with his professional club, it's just hard to say. Like, they play in two different kind of leagues over there. The main one, he wasn't expected to get a ton of playing time. He's like the youngest guy in that entire league. So I'm not put off by him not really playing there. There was another league and level that they played in where he wasn't getting run in that one either. And I think that was surprising to a lot of people. I've watched some people who covered that league who talked about it, who were like, that's where it gets a little bit weird. Like, why wasn't he playing there? But again, that wasn't all about him so much as it was the coach who had been there forever, just like threw the talent in the middle of the year and was like, I'm out of here. I got to go. This is crazy. They bring in a new guy. There were protests. There were dudes who had been there forever who were getting benched. It was just a bad situation that he needed to get out of. So what you want to see is him to consistently start producing. The last sample size that we have of Miikka was at the Hoop Summit. And it's like I said, he looked better in that than he did the last 2 years. I know it's one exhibition type of game where he played, 22 minutes or something like that. But if that's what you're going to get from him, if that's who he is now on a day-to-day basis, then you really have something here.
Yeah, and I think that's the, I don't want to say concerning part, but the part that, as a fan, as you're trying to process and contextualize this, if it's a transfer addition who played through, someone like even Nick Pringle, who, by the way, didn't transfer all of his, skill sets and all of his, what he could bring to the table. But you had 4 years of SEC games to look at and be like, hey, what is this guy going to look like on an SEC floor? I don't have to wonder. It's right here. What is this guy going to look like at the college basketball level? There's less guessing. There's less wondering with Miikka, who not only is just 18 years old. So, we see guys all the time that are a completely different player at 17 than they are at 19 and completely different, in one situation than they are the other. I think that's going to be the most interesting part is you just have no idea how that translates, what that looks like, and the type of basketball he's been playing. It's a completely different world. Quite literally, you know what I mean? It's on a different side of the world, but also it's just different rule sets, different basketball, different opponent, different everything. And so I'm interested to see kind of how he molds together in college basketball. I think that his size advantage, because that's the one thing is when he was over there, he really didn't have much of a size advantage, when he was playing, especially against grown men. I think he's going to be, especially as he gets bigger and stronger and more mature, he is going to be pleasantly surprised by how much he sticks out as a physical specimen, even playing the 4, and not being this super burly guy. I think his athleticism at 7 foot and just the way he moves is going to be a great fit for college basketball. And again, I've said this a couple times now, but especially early in the season, because before he plays in the SEC, he's going to play 15, 16 games non-conference, some good competition, but he's also going to get to play against Furman or whoever. And I think you're going to see him look like an absolute monster in those settings. And so it's okay if this guy does kind of develop at a specific trend, and then maybe by January, February, we'll feel differently about him than we maybe did in October, November.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think I'm with you there. Where is, I know we had some other super chats. There we go. From Roger, he says if Arkansas ends up with a 3 big man lineup, I petition we call it the XNA lineup because of the massive average wingspan on the court. Yeah. So Miikka's is 7'3". Akazi is his. I think his is 7'3". No, his might be even more than that, honestly. And then Handlockton, I mean, he's got it as well. That would be crazy. It'd be crazy. A lot of arms out there. They're gonna have to recreate that photo. You remember when Paolo and Elmer got on campus and Cal had them all touching hands the front court? And he's like, man, these guys are long. You do that again, they're gonna stretch all the way across the floor.
Well, not to mention, it's not like your backcourt's super small. I mean, your point guard literally has a 6'8" wingspan. You got some other guys in there, Andrews, Torrey, Richmond. Those are some long dudes. You know what I mean? That's gonna be. It's not like it's just a bunch of long big men and then a bunch of little 5'8" guys. That's a lot of imposing length at every position, really.
There is. It's like I've seen people do the thing about the backcourt of backcourts. If Wilkinson's in there, that's pretty small, man. It's 6'1" and 6'2", and it's like, yeah, height wise, but Jordan Smith Jr. has got a 6'9" wingspan, which doesn't make any sense at all on a 6'2" body. But yeah, it's I think they'll be able to make it work there. From Slimly, appreciate the super chat. That's very generous. Says with the Miikka ad, and if we get a KZ, would be insane. Every position on the court has ability to stretch the floor. Not saying everyone should, but the threat is there. Along with all of these young guys having an aggressive mindset like Billy. Yeah, I think this is a good point here. You don't have to have a stretch for, like, there are different ways to play basketball. You don't have to have a guy that makes a bunch of threes at the 4, but I do think with the way Arkansas plays, because a lot of people are thinking, well, why don't we just do exactly what Arizona did or Michigan did and just get big, strong, physical dudes and we'll be just fine. And I think it's because of the way that they run their stuff and the efficiency with which they run it. It's just a different type of system. We know that Cal, it's not that they don't run anything, but it's all about getting your players into their spots and letting them cook and giving them opportunities to create and make plays. You do need spacing for that. So having that threat, I think, is really important. Having two clunkers in the paint that people can just sag off of, that's going to take away those driving lanes for a guy like a Jordan Smith Jr. or whoever. So having a guy like Miikka who can knock down threes, that's going to help because you have to respect that on the perimeter. You can't just pack the lane or help off of him without getting burned. Kesey's another one. I think he hit like 12 threes or something, this past season. The shot looks good, though. He's the type of guy where you're like, hey, let's just keep you around the rim, big fella. But he could have the potential to step down and be a threat out there from 3 as well. And then you could have that because that's one thing. Arkansas losing Acuff, that's a lot of made 3-pointers. Trevin was responsible for all of them that you had in the front court. And if you're bringing in some guys here who can help with that, like Wilkinson, high volume 3-point shooter. You get a guy like Miikka who can replace. It's not like Trevin was making 4 a game or something. What did he make, like 40 or whatever throughout the course of the season? So I do think that's an important part of it. It helps for sure. And I think you're onto something with the aggressive mindset. They got some tough guys in this class, it seems like.
Well, and we talked about this a little bit last year of like, it's just like Trevin, if anytime he wanted to shoot a 3, it was readily available to him because opponents are almost not conceding it, but it's like they would rather you take the 3 than take the at the rim shot. And so I feel like that's got to be a little bit of a confidence factor. Everybody on the floor for Arkansas outside of, honestly, Wilkinson, you will look at like even Jordan Smith Jr. Teams will be completely content for him to step back and shoot that 3. The more that you get those opportunities, the more that as a player, you're kind of like, oh, you're giving me this? Really? Mm-hmm. You start knocking those down, you become harder to defend. I think it's kind of a variable that Arkansas is going to have where they're not going to knock down 12 threes in every game, but they are going to have those days where everyone's kind of shooting and letting it fly a little bit. And I feel like on those days, it's like just an auto L if you're playing Arkansas.
For sure. And I want to throw this out there about Miikka too, is one of the criticisms that was thrown out from I guess his former staff or whoever it was, basically said like he doesn't have the basketball, like the feel or the basketball IQ to be able to help them over there. I think somebody was like, oh, he's still got the basketball sense of a 13-year-old or something. It was kind of a low blow, but we know the European game is a lot different than it is over here. And it's a lot more about execution and running your stuff and reads and secondary reads. There's a lot that goes on from that standpoint. So I could see how it would be a little bit overwhelming for a guy who hadn't already played professionally for however many years, because it just hasn't been the case for Miikka. It seems like coming over to college and playing in kind of a free-flowing, let's just maximize your strengths and put you in positions to make plays type of system, which is what you have at Arkansas. He's going to be able to think less and play more. And that's another reason why obviously you talk yourselves into things, but I do think this is a better fit from a basketball standpoint too. He doesn't seem to me at this stage of his career, and who is at his age, the type of guy who's, running all these advanced systems, these set plays and everything, making the right reads on how defenders are playing stuff, as opposed to, okay, well, we're going to run this action. We're going to get you the ball in this spot, go to work and get a bucket.
I mean, dude, to further that point, like I remember because I was when Luka was a prospect, I was in college and I was like so in the weeds. Like I was watching all the FIBA World Cups. I was watching all these games. And I remember he averaged like 16-4 his last year in the Euro League, and he was the MVP of the league. And he was like a generational. It's like they had never seen an 18-year-old average 16 a game. He literally almost averaged double than that when he got over to the NBA, because again, it's just a different brand of basketball that kind of allows you to play that way. And so I think a lot of times you look at numbers or you look at highlights and whatever, and you're kind of like, okay, but dude, it really is a completely different world. I mean, it's literally a different basketball. I know it's just got a little different design or whatever. Yeah. It's just everything is, you can goaltend over there. Like there's just a lot of weird things. They also don't give assists for anything I've noticed over there. It's a different world. And so again, and that's something that you also have to think about of like, all right, now how is this going to translate? But I do think if you're looking at just pure stats and stuff like that, it's like not even worth using.
Yeah, I'm with you. A few more super chats. Jafra says Cal always had a plan. We just need you guys to keep that energy if they go 48 hours without getting another commitment, but no, this is good, man. And obviously the front court was the biggest piece of the puzzle for Arkansas going into the offseason. And they still have a lot that has not yet been addressed. And the season's been over for a month now. Like they've got to figure it out at the 5. We know who the targets are. Yes, they have contingency plans if it doesn't work out. They're going to be fine there. It's just a matter of time. But hey, the 4 spot matters too, and so this goes a long way towards answering those questions. And I'm excited to see how it all turns out here. Talent is not going to be a question at Arkansas next season. It's kind of crazy what this is looking like. I'm excited to see when once we get past this upcoming draft, and hopefully that passes and Malik Thomas and Billy are back in Razorback uniforms or whatever. Because if that's the case, and then the night after the draft finishes and they go to the 2027 mocks, everybody puts out their early ones. How many Razorbacks are going to be in that? Yeah. Because like Leak and Billy would both be in them. And then Jordan Smith Jr. obviously is going to be in there. I see JJ and Torrey. Torrey is higher than a lot of these guys in these. And then now that Miika's coming to college, where will he fit in those? Probably second rounds early, but he's a dude who could, if he pops, he's a lottery guy. He really is. Like, I mean, just based on all the intangibles there, they might have like 6, 7. Yeah, I did that on purpose. Wow. Dudes in a 2027 lottery mock or a mock.
As we speak right now, Curtis, there is some analytics nerd in his mother's basement that has Miika ranked 4th on his big board. Like there's just like, I feel like there's always going to be those weird guys that just like they gravitate to for whatever reason. Yeah. But yeah, just get a bunch of ping pong balls in there and one of them will hit the lottery.
Yeah, exactly. From Derek, he says, what a boost for my Monday. Yeah, good for you. It's the Montana Mamba. And he's been Team Miika for a while. He saw him at Hoop Summit and was like, I don't need to see anything else. And I think a lot of people felt that way. And in all honesty, like I said, man, if he plays in college with the type of tenacity on the glass and the above the rim stuff that he showed at the Hoop Summit, which that's not like the McDonald's game, and it's not like the Jordan brand. Like this, it was highly competitive. There were bragging rights involved for Team USA versus the world, and those dudes got after it. And so it was a competitive environment there, and he looked good, man. So if he's able to bring that consistently, then that's great. And there's going to be ups and downs. There are with everybody. There was, believe it or not, people will forget this, but there was a time early in the season where Darius Acuff didn't look great. And it was about that time where they were almost getting beat by mid-majors. Because I remember being like, no, man, he's just he was still getting like 13 and 4 or whatever. But there was a stretch there of about 2 weeks where he didn't look very good. Now, after that, he was awesome. But every freshman, man, is going to have their ups and downs throughout the course of the season. Remember how low of a point we were with Malik Thomas at the end of non-conference. Like going into
over 10 that one game?
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah, he barely could play against Houston. And there was a lot there where we're like, sheesh, man, he's going to have to really grow up. He was awesome in SEC play. So with any of these guys, if they struggle out of the gates or early in league play or something, we just got to be patient and give them time. That's part of the freshman thing. I know BBN used to get irritated by that because Cal would do the thing about we're built for March. And, it might not look this way now, but just wait until later in the season. When you have young teams like that, there's actually a lot of truth to it, whether it irritates people or not.
Hashtag trust Cal.
That's right. Yeah, trust him, bro. Ryan says, if we get Akazi, is Arkansas the favorite for SEC Freshman of the Year?
I think they are, only because like I don't think Miika or Akazi are going to affect that equation. I think Jordan Smith Jr. is like your best bet.
Yeah, I mean, between him and Torrey and JJ, I'm trying to think who else is. I know Missouri's got a couple McDonald's All-Americans who were coming in, and Crow and the other guy. Kentucky doesn't have any. Yeah, I would say just by sheer volume, Arkansas has got to be the favorite there, right?
Weirdly enough, Ryan, I actually might make the argument that adding Miikka and Akizi hurts your chances to win SEC freshman.
As much room to shine.
You're gonna spread out the numbers a little bit, but no, I think Jordan Smith Jr. And again, like SEC freshman of the year varies year to year. Like there's not always an A-Cup level guy. I think if Jordan Smith Jr. averages 15-4 on a top 3 team in the league, and he's like the number 1 guy, I think that would be enough to win it.
Yeah, I think so. Washburn Idol says, get Akazi and Cal, running back 5, young ones, dream is alive. Yes, if the team does well, it will go a long way towards his stance on keeping college about the youth. 17, 18, 19-year-olds, that's what he says.
He wants NBA guys. I don't want these 22-year-old guys who are just bumming for change before they go work an Amazon job. He wants guys that are going to play in the NBA, which is what young guys are. And he's zagging when everyone else is zigging, and I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah, I feel you. Slimly says Cal wants to be a downhill team that kicks out to the 3 when the defense collapses, and the team he's putting together looks like he's trying to maximize that. Yeah, they're gonna have some serious downhill vibes. It's coming together. It's hard to get too irrationally excited until they get their 5 in place here, because that's such an important piece to the puzzle. But I mean, if you think about the downhill aspect of what they have with Jordan Smith Jr. and Torrey and JJ, what we hope will be Billy Richmond, that's a lot. And then if they're able to space the floor with a guy like Miikka, sure, but with what Wilkinson can provide, if you get Malik Thomas back, that's what's going to set it over the top for me. They can go get whoever at the center spot. You got enough talent to where it's like, okay, if this dude can just rebound and block a few shots, you'll be fine there. If they are able to find a way to get Malik Thomas back in the equation, they're not far away from me looking at it going, dang, this might be the year. I mean, I really think it's about that simple for me, because I think he's going to be that good. I think if year 2 Malik Thomas, in my opinion, is All-American level good.
I think so too. I think what it would do, I mean, I already saw a few national guys saying that the Miikka addition solidifies Arkansas as a preseason top 10 team. And by the way, I know that Hog fans might push back against that assessment. Try to name 10 teams who you think have a better roster than Arkansas. You could probably name a few, but it's like it gets thin real quick. I think if you were able, like, let's say that their roster wound up being Obinna and Malik Thomas, and then they just called it a day after that, even if you didn't get the kid from Florida, I think that roster would be top 5 preseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think it very well could be. Exciting times, man. Exciting times. I want to go rapid fire through a few more of these, and appreciate everybody for hanging out with us. Then we're going to get out of here
because stream, right?
Yeah, we'll be live again in a couple hours here. I did just want to address this from Razorback Pride. He said, "Where was the pod this morning?"
You're watching it.
If you watched the last pod, I said I'm not going to do one for bright and early Monday morning when we're going to get a commitment at 9 a.m. And so that's. I mean, what was I going to say? Oh, we're on pins and needles here, waiting for Miikka, who we know is going to commit. I waited
to the chat of a morning pod to wonder where the morning pod is next level galaxy brain.
I brought it up though, and I'm just messing with you, Razorback Pride, but because I had enough people last night that were like, well, yeah, this is cool, but what am I gonna do driving to work? Like, what am I gonna do at the gym this morning? Like, I'm making my breakfast. What am I gonna listen to? That made me feel really good, to the point where I almost recorded something anyway, and then I was like, no. No, I'm not doing that. But I appreciate the support. The coffee club has become a real thing. I was trying to pawn some more things off. I was like, man, we got a red-white game recap that probably some people need to catch up on. We had a whole bombastic live stream, about this
you have to be 18
program
to watch that bombastic stream.
That you have to be an adult to watch, because Andrew's just he's just pushing all the limits apparently, which is insane, by the way, because I listened to the whole thing. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but. Anyway, that's why there was no pod at bright and early in the morning. Let's see. Foz says we got our 4. Now let's make a serious run at a couple 5s and bring a national championship back to the state. That's the kind of stuff people are going to be talking if the last couple dominoes fall the right way. Chominoes off the table.
Yeah, now they're just official dominoes.
I agree with this from Jammer's time. If Slim Chickens doesn't sponsor this guy, you have to.
Yeah, Slim. He's
mean,
Slim Jesus. That's a little too sacrilegious. Let's go Slim Chickens. Let's just call him that.
Yeah, Chicken Man out of here. Carter Knox. Somebody's got to take the throne.
He's got to take up the chicken mantle. Yeah, he's just Slim Chicken.
I like this from Caleb. He says Miikka has accepted Cal's Help a Family challenge.
Yeah,
and he has. I was kind of thinking, if he comes here and he's a knucklehead or whatever, having some of those moments as he's figuring it out, Hogs Plus might have to do an episode of Scared Straight with Billy Richmond. That's the other thing, man. Like,
yeah,
there's
only
only
help
room
their
for
development for sure.
Yeah,
you're gonna grow up real quick.
Yes. This is funny from Daniel. He says Mark Pope lockered once again. You love to see it, and I don't know if they were lockered, but it's hilarious to me that as soon as there starts to be some reports running out there that Mark Pope has been in touch with Miikka Muurinen, and they're kicking the tires over there, trying to get involved there. And then he announces like right after that, like, oh, I'm announcing my commitment on Monday. And then he comes to the Hogs. It's pretty funny. So it was like a lot of hope real quick over nothing there. So for Kentucky, man, it's like they're just hoping and praying that Tyron Stokes comes on board. And if he doesn't,
the not John Rothstein account quote tweeted a Kentucky fan with the epitome of brutality today, and it killed me.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I love that people understand the assignment here. It's like, just need a huge 5 and we'll be in business. A few depth pieces. We'll be a Final Four-ish roster. And I think they've got the depth pieces right now. I mean, you're probably looking at Sealy and Paolo Smito and guys like that being what, 11 and 12 or something. So, I mean, I do think that they're definitely going to have a deeper team, but yes, that's the one thing that I think is missing. And Akizi, he's such an immense talent that he's a massive priority. You got to get him, but he'll be an incoming freshman who's reclassifying. He's like 225. And I do think that they really need the beef. You got to get one beefy boy in there to be able to match up with some of these, huge physical Chinyalu type dudes out there. And so if they were to just add 2 more pieces, you get a KZ and you get, I know Han Logden's the hot name right now, but somebody like that, just a bruiser. It's going to be hard to find a bunch of holes in the roster, to be honest with you. Let's see. Are we going to live above the rim again? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you will.
He will certainly help the dime. In fact, well, I don't want to say for sure, but like, I think as it stands right now, Miikka might be the favorite to lead the team in dunks. He
might. Yeah, I guess we got to kind of see what else they do at the 5, because Arkansas is going to have a lot of high-flying wings, but, it's going to be the bigs who lead the way because they're going to get all the lobs. Like JJ and Abdu Torre are going to get a bunch of dunks. Jordan Smith Jr., I'll tell you this right now. You could take DJ – this is not saying much. You could take DJ, Darius Acuff, and Malik Thomas. Those 3 guys combine their dunks from last year, and I'm telling you right now, Jordan Smith Jr. will have more than that by himself this season.
What is that, like 13, 14 dunks?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think,
yeah. And dude, by the way, 15 dunks for a point guard is very notable. Like, that's the thing that the draft guys really like.
Yeah. From Jose, he says, could Arkansas have 2 or 3 lottery picks next year? Yes, they legitimately could. Yeah. If Malik Thomas comes back, there's one. Jordan Smith Jr., he's the number 1 guard in the class coming in. Abdu Torre, he's one. I saw JJ in some real high a while back. Not so much now. I still see him in a lot of first rounds. We're talking lottery specifically here. But let's see what he does. Abdu Torre is one that I think people are really starting to catch on to. Late bloomers, probably not fair, but like stock riser, big time. People are starting to see the vision. Would not surprise me to see him in those conversations. And again, with Miikka, if it pops, then you might be onto something there. So yeah, why not? And if they get a KZ, then sure. And we might be having that conversation, which would be fun. Would be a lot of fun. And listen, this is a good point. The boys, he said, how many college athletes can say they hit a 3 over Joker? None.
Literally maybe 0 other than him.
Yeah. Seriously. Okay, is there anything else cool in here that we should get to? I like this from Ryan. He says, so if we land a KZ and Handy, Hand logged in, handy, hand lotion. People are calling him.
Lotion, yeah.
Are we a Final Four team?
I don't like handy. Let's just say that. I don't like handy.
It's a little bit crazy. On paper, I think you got the goods for it at that point.
Yeah.
In my opinion, at least. Okay, and I want to bring this one up. Samuel, he says, where do you think Miikka will rank in the 24/7 Sports rankings when they add him to the rankings? Right around where JJ Andrews is. Yeah, and so that's the thing. So I checked on that yesterday because it's a little bit confusing because Miikka was over here. He played on the EYBL. He played multiple years in high school. But then this past season, he played professionally, over in Europe. And as I understand it, because of that, and that it was his last stop, that I think he's already ranked and everything at 24. He's a 5-star at 24/7 Sports, but he falls into their international rankings. He won't count towards the high school class, I don't think. If he did, then Arkansas would have the number 1. I went and did the class calculator thing over there. I used to love that when we worked at 24/7. But I don't think he's going to count against that. It'll count against like the team total. So we'll need to see what else they do. Obinna Akizi would, obviously, if he reclassified. And I think that would be enough to push Arkansas over Duke for the number 1 class in the country. So they got a shot at getting it there.
Well, all I know for sure is that 24/7, he's number 1 in Serbia.
Yes.
That's
yes,
huge.
he is. That is very true. Okay, looks like we got a trio of super chats. Then we'll get out of here for sure because I got a couple things I got to do before the other show starts.
Before we hop right back in here.
Exactly. From Scott Freedom, he says, I'm already excited for next year. My bank account is going to be hurting buying tickets next year. The talent is over the top, and Cal isn't finished. Yeah, it's probably going to be a hot ticket. Get in there in November. The
good thing is, Scott, there's going to be, I'd say, about 4,000 season ticket holders that will not attend one single game, and so those tickets will always be up for grabs. I know that's messed up, but it's like seriously every single game this year. Almost every single time I had the option to get tickets on SeatGeek or somewhere, like they're just always available.
Right. Sharkansas says if there was ever a coach that could bring out the maturity in Miikka, it's Cal. 100%.
Yeah.
100% agree with that. And then Slimly says Finnish Freak was his other nickname he was given in Europe. I like Finnish Freak.
Finnish Freak, yeah. That's not bad. That's not bad.
By
the way, I was trying really hard to think about it because we were talking about Final Four and whatever, and I was trying to think of like Final Four finish, thinking somewhere along those lines. But we're gonna get enough out of just Finnish stuff, finish line.
Oh yeah,
the Finn Reaper.
I like the Finn Reaper. That might be what we go with. We'll have to do a poll on that one, just like we did for Billy. Yeah. I think that's what it's going to be.
And also, ultimately, Miikka gets to choose. If Miikka says he's Slim Jesus, he's Slim Jesus. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The interview he did with the Hoops Hype guy at the summit, that he refused to answer any questions in English. The guy was like, "Oh, can you answer in English?" And he was like, "Yeah, I got you, bro." And then he asked him, and he just answered everything in Finnish. Just kind of laughed. But when he asked him about Slim Jesus, you could see the big smile come up on his face, and he kind of laughed at it. So I think he gets a kick out of that one. But anyway,
we'll have to go through and get the translation and see how he really feels.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, any final thoughts, Andrew, before we get out of here, and then run it back a little bit later?
Yeah, I've got a ton. I've got so many final thoughts, Curtis, and I'm going to share all of them on our noon show, Inside Arkansas Live today. So if you want to know the brilliant insight I was about to embark here, you have to pull up at our noon live show. And so we'll see you there.
Yes, for sure. I am happy to see that Arkansas is no longer afflicted with no four-itis, which I got to give Ryan credit for that one. They have solved that problem, and Miikka Muurinen is a hog. Cool. Open-minded, optimistic. Let's let Cal cook. Gonna get out of here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Find us wherever you find your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere that you listen. We're gonna get out of here for now, but we will be back in a couple hours. For Andrew Ellis and Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pod, the Palace. Ooh, pig. You have a good rest of your morning.